Hi everyone, welcome to Ask an Armourer. My name's Kia and today I'm going to be showing you how to test the weight springs of both a foil and an epee, as well as the tip gauges, or the shims as they're also known, for an epee. I'll also go into an explanation of what these tests are for. So all you're going to need for this is the foil or epee that you're checking, a body cord that you know is working. In my case, I'm going to be using my multi-ended octopus tool, as this is just what I had to carry around with me. It makes my life easier since I am typically checking a variety of weapons rather than just my personal stuff, which should be the same type of body cord regardless of what you're using. You're also going to need a test box. This is my slightly older model from Absolute that I'm going to be using today, but it doesn't really matter which one you use so long as it is one you're comfortable with and familiar with the outputs from it. Excuse you. And then finally, you're just going to need your weights and your shims. This here is a combination weight, so it actually is a 500 gram weight on top with a 250 additional weight that can be removed or added as needed, again depending on if you're checking a foil, which only needs the 500 gram weight, or an epee, which is the 750 gram weight. Now, in both weapons, the weight test is used to make sure that the weight spring, or the larger of the two springs in epee, is actually strong enough to withstand the assigned weight. This ensures a level playing field, as you can't reset the spring to be super delicate, go off at a feather touch, and potentially score you hits that you didn't actually earn. If you're an epeeist, you'll also know that you have these two tip gauges that you need to use, and these make sure that the tip button actually travels the appropriate distance. So the larger one ensures that the outside button, what you can actually see, actually has to travel this minimum distance. It is 1.5 millimeters. Make sure that, again, you're not setting it so that it can go off without actually traveling that distance. And then the inside one, which is about 0.5 millimeter, make sure that you haven't taken the inside contact spring, the smaller one in the epee tip, and stretched it out so, again, the tip doesn't actually have to move that much in order to score a hit. All of this just goes back to fairness of play and ensuring that everybody is on as equal standing as possible, so the only difference comes out in skill level as opposed to technical cheating. Now, we don't need to worry about those gauges in foil just by the design of the two tips. There is not the second contact spring in foil, and the tip itself is what causes the contact to happen as opposed to this spring. So we don't need to worry about that for foil, just an epee. You can make a reasonable assumption that if your tip is in good shape for foil, it will pass this requirement. Now, with that bit of an explanation out of the way, it's time to do the test. So what you're going to need to do is plug your weapon in. I'm just going to go ahead and use an epee today, as that will demonstrate both tests, and the weight test is the same method for both foil and epee, again just making sure you're using the correct weight. So just take your weapon and plug it into your test box. Now, for the rest of this, I am just going to rest the handle of the epee on the ground, mostly to make my life easier so I can actually reach the end, and hopefully you will be able to see what I'm doing as well. There we go. So once your box is plugged in, go ahead and take your weight and gently place it on the tip of your weapon. Now, at this point, nothing should happen. The base state of whatever your weapon is should be maintained. So for epee, as you can see, there are no lights on my box. In foil, it's the opposite, where one light should be holding constantly at this point with the base state. So what this means is just with a weight resting on it, the weight spring is strong enough not to deflect. If you have this base state achieved, that's a really good sign. If there's any sort of flickering, you know that your spring is not strong enough at all and will fail this weight at a competition. And of course, if the opposite light comes on from your base state, for epee the light comes on, for foil the light turns off, with just the weight sitting there, it is definitely far too weak and will 100% fail at a tournament. But as we can see right now, the epee is holding firm, everything is okay. So now to continue the test, you're going to take the weight and gently pull down on it until you see the light goes on for epee, or for foil the light will go off. This indicates that contact has been made and everything is okay for this one. Now release the weight. Again, you should go back immediately and easily to the base state of your weapon. If there's any sort of flickering, or if the light stays in the activated state as opposed to the base state, you know that your weight spring has an issue. And throughout all of this, make sure that you're being gentle with the weight. We don't want to just drop it or slam it down on the tip, as that could potentially cause more damage that then we have to go and repair as well. And let's not cause more problems for ourselves. So, once you've confirmed that the weight is easily and efficiently able to be depressed and then raised up again for either your foil or your epee, you can just take the weight off. And for foil, you're done. If your foil passes that weight test with the 500 gram weight, you're set to go. But in epee, now we're going to go on to the gauge test. Now there are the two gauges, and it really doesn't matter what order you do these in. You're going to have to check and pass both anyways. However, I typically see a convention where you start with the larger one and then move to the smaller one. Doesn't really matter, but I guess that's just a way of making sure that you've actually done both, formed the habit that way, and it works out. So I'm going to follow that convention and start with the larger one. So all you need to do is take the larger of the two gauges and just slide it into this neck area of the tip, right underneath the largest part of the button, between that and the barrel, and just slide that in there. And as you can see, it should slide easily and completely into that gap. So this just again ensures that that minimum distance will be covered in order to score a hit in epee. Now it's time to check the smaller one, and again this one also is looking to make sure that the correct distance is covered per hit, but it is now looking at the internal contact spring as opposed to the external shape of the tip button. So same as with the first larger one, we're going to take this and slide it into that neck region of the tip, and then we're going to depress this. And this is going to get a little awkward as I try to hold everything for you to see it. But this is again reference to your test box. You should maintain the base state, so the light off in epee. You should not see the light going on for a hit. So this again just makes sure that the spring inside hasn't gotten stretched out and will therefore cause a hit before it has actually traveled the appropriate distance. So this one looks good from this angle. You'll want to also rotate it 90 degrees and test it again at that angle. This just makes sure that the contact spring hasn't gotten hit and is now slightly at an angle, which will sometimes go off and sometimes not. If the light does go on, however, this just means that your contact spring has gotten a little bit too long and you're going to need to adjust that before it's ready for competition. I'll link the video on how to fix that down below. And that's it. Once you've passed both the weight and the gauge test for epee, or just the weight test for foil, you're ready to go for competition. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, or other topics that you'd like me to cover, let me know down below. See you in the next one!